Outrage from the family of victims as a jury spares the Parkland school shooter from the death penalty.
If this was not the most perfect death penalty case, then why do we have the death penalty at all?
Parents breaking down in tears, visibly angry at the outcome.
Pressing the barrel of his weapon to my daughter's chest. That doesn't outweigh that poor little, what's his name, had a tough upbringing.
Some blaming the system.
I'm disgusted with our legal system. I'm disgusted with those jurors. I'm disgusted with the system.
And calling on people to act now.
We are all in this position now of doing the work that we do around this country to keep this from happening to another family.
A tight-knit community far from closure as it feels like it did not get justice for these 17 victims. CBS 12 News This Morning starts now. Well, this morning, families of the victims killed in the Parkland school shooting in disbelief after a jury recommended life in prison for Nikolas Cruz.
The jury foreman said that 3 of the 12 jurors voted that factors including mental illness brought up by the defense should take the death penalty off the table.
Mental illness, one of at least 40 mitigating factors the defense presented to persuade jurors that death was not the appropriate sentence. Other mitigating factors: the shooter had been exposed to alcohol and drugs in the womb, and that he'd been sexually abused by a trusted peer.
And new this morning, we are learning that prosecutors are filing a new motion with the Broward County Court.
Yeah, they're asking the judge to interview a juror who said felt threatened by another juror during the deliberations.
CBS 12's Kara Duffy joins us live outside of the courthouse in Fort Lauderdale.
So, Kara, what are you learning this morning?
Well, Matt, Danielle, state prosecutors filed that motion last night asking the judge to have law enforcement interview the juror who claimed that she felt threatened by a fellow member of the jury during what she called the very tense deliberation process. The 3-page filing by the Broward State Attorney's Office says that after the killer was handed down a life sentence instead of the death penalty, so-called Juror X called the prosecutor's office and reported that during the deliberation, she received what she perceived to be a threat from a fellow juror. Now, according to the motion, the state did not call Juror X back and instead filed the notice to the court saying that they want an investigation into this serious allegation because a crime may have been committed. The formal request does not name the juror in question, but Matt, Danielle, it is unclear if the judge will be moving forward with the prosecution's request. But of course, this all far from over here as expected. A lot of developments to be coming up in the coming days and weeks, and a lot of legal proceedings that are still ahead.
Kara, thank you. One of those 3 jurors who voted for life sent a handwritten letter to the judge explaining their opposition to the death penalty. She is writing this letter to defend herself. You're now looking at that letter right now. She is addressing rumors from other jurors that she had already made up her mind about voting for a life sentence before the trial even got underway. She denies these claims, writing that she maintained her, quote, oath to the court to be fair and unbiased. The juror wrote that the deliberations were very tense and that some jurors became very unhappy once she mentioned she would vote for life.
So the 12-panel jury assigned to the sentencing trial was made up of 7 men and 5 women. The jurors chosen were 2 banking executives and 2 tech workers, a probation officer, a human resources professional, and a Walmart store stock supervisor. As we have been saying, that the entire jury had to be unanimous for it to be a death penalty. And the jury foreman said he was disappointed in the outcome, but that other jurors had concerns about the shooter's mental health.
That's how the jury system works. Everybody gets their vote. Everybody gets to decide. You know, we went through all the evidence, and some of the jurors just felt that was the appropriate sentence.
He said the jurors had made up their minds by Wednesday. That was the first day of deliberation. They adjourned for the day after 7 hours, but some jurors wanted to sleep on their decision.
That decision did not sit well with many of the Parkland parents who were outraged that the jury did not unanimously support the death penalty. These parents spent months in the courtroom reliving the murder of their kids with gruesome testimony and graphic videos. They spoke out moments after the verdict was read, calling this ruling another gut punch.
What it says to me, what it says to my family, what it says to the other families is that his life meant more than the 17 that were murdered and the 17 that were shot.
I hope he has the fear in him every second of his life, just the way he gave that fear to every one of our loved ones who he murdered.
I pray that that animal suffers every day of his life in jail. And he should have a short life.
These family members will get another chance to speak again on the record in court when they give impact statements at next month's sentencing.
Under Florida law, the judge cannot change the jury's recommendation of a life sentence. The public defender says the jury in the case did its job, and that is the way the legal system works. Gordon Weeks did not try to analyze what led to their decision, just rather said this verdict was final.
We have to also recognize that the jurors in this case sat through a number of days of very, very difficult, traumatic evidence, and they heard it all, and they weighed it all, and they rendered a verdict. And we have to respect that.
The shooter will be taken into custody of the Department of Corrections after being sentenced. He will be transferred likely to the South Florida Reception Center, processed into the prison system, and eventually assigned a prison where he will remain for the rest of his life. We sat down with a criminal defense lawyer in an area with experience on death penalty cases. He says the jury had to decide which carried more weight, the aggravating factors, like the 17 people killed to impose a death sentence, or the mitigating circumstances, like Cruz's troubled life.
In this particular case, the mental illness actually won out, and this will be criticized forever. Oh, was he really mentally ill? Was this, a rogue jury? And you're going to hear all those things, and I understand why you're going to hear those things, but they did their job.
This is one of the most high-profile death cases since Florida changed the law in 2017 that requires a unanimous vote to recommend a death sentence. Florida abolished the parole system in the 80s.
And this morning we are hearing from the governor on that verdict. In a news conference in Cape Coral, he pointed out he was disappointed in the outcome.
I just don't think anything else is appropriate except a capital sentence in this case. And so I was very disappointed to see that. I'm also disappointed that we're 4.5 years after these killings and we're just now getting this.
We have more reaction pouring in from other state leaders this morning. Governor's challenger in November, Charlie Crist, tweeting, "There are crimes for which the only just penalty is death. The Parkland families and community deserved that degree of justice." Also, Senator Rick Scott tweeting a long comment here that says, in part, we can only pray that as each phase of the painful process concludes, those whose hearts were torn by this monster find some measure of closure. And Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried tweeting, "I haven't been able to put the emotions of today into proper words as there just aren't. Today we stand with our Parkland families and our hearts go out to them."
And this is who we want to remember today. You're looking at the faces of the 17 victims, 14 students, 3 staff members, all of them with big goals and dreams. They had promising lives that were cut short. They will never be forgotten. Alyssa Al-Hadef was a star soccer midfielder.
Martin Duque dreamed of becoming a U.S. Navy SEAL.
Scott Beagle was a geography teacher and a cross-country coach.
Nicholas Dworet had a full swimming scholarship and wanted to compete in the Olympics.
Aaron Feis was an assistant football coach.
Jamie Guttenberg was a member of the Dance Theater Extreme team.
Chris Hickson was the athletic director and wrestling coach.
Luke Hoyer had plans of joining the football team his sophomore year.
Kara Loughran was an Irish dancer and she loved gymnastics.
Gina Montalto was a member of the Color Guard and she played soccer.
Joaquin Oliver was interested in writing and was passionate about basketball.
Elena Petty was a member of the Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps.
Meadow Pollock was an aspiring attorney who was headed to Lynn University in Boca Raton.
Helena Ramsey dreamed of working for the United Nations.
Alex Schachter was a member of the school's marching band.
Carmen Schentrup aspired to work as a medical researcher.
Peter Wang was a member of the Army Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps. Stay with us. We have a lot more CBS 12 News this morning when we come back.